Hi guys. We have the chat box working. Hooray! So you can let yourselves, as you're coming in, let us know in the comments who's here, who are you, what do you do? Do you know Mitch? I always feel like, I don't know, going live with Mitch is always a bit like, I imagine being a sort of stage manager for a rock band where you're kind of thinking, I know it's going to be a good gig, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. Or even if he'll be here. I'm sure he will be here, but I panic. I get myself in a panic about him because, hi Joanne. Hi Victoria. I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what case studies he's going to share. But hopefully he'll be along in a minute. Make sure he's got the link. We can just hang out in the comments while we're waiting, right? Oh, he's just said he can't make it today. There you go. That's exactly what I thought would happen. I don't know why. I just had this feeling. I was like, I just don't think he's going to come today. Oh no. Okay, fine. Right. Well, Mitch isn't able to come, so not a lot I can do really for this one. I'm going to have to rearrange it. Sorry, guys. Like I said, it's like managing a tour band. I'm sure he's got very, very, very good reason. Let's rearrange it. I could talk a bit about Mitch and how amazing his work is, but what would be best to do is just rebook him. He's amazing. I love him so much. I'm going to go and voice note him now and just explain what's going on. Oh, who's here? Mitch is here. Is he coming to say why you can't come? Oh, Mitch Miller, you are here today.
I was just messing with you. I should have sent the message like 10 minutes ago or something.
I was literally live and I was like, I'm just going to message him and make sure he's coming. And I was like, no, he can't come. That's brilliant. I was just saying as well, I was like, going live with Mitch is what I imagine being like the tour manager of a rock band is like a couple of minutes before you go on stage. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what he's going to say. Don't know what he's going to do, or even if he's going to be here. So thanks for being here. And thanks for messing with me. Mitch, you are like the main man in my life. Every time my husband walks past, he's like, you're watching Mitch again, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. I am all obsessed. I'm like watching. So I've got into the Miller Method, which is the program that we were talking about on the last one, and I've been watching it, and I've been the mind blown emoji every time because I was working my way through it, and what I've posted about actually is it's a masterclass in positioning in itself, like the product. But my favorite bit, even though everything's amazing, is the first video you send that says watch this first, and you're sat outside and you can see a lady, presumably girlfriend, walking around in a bikini in the background, and you're saying like, don't fucking message me. Like, you don't pay to message me, so don't send me any messages. Go and do the thing, come to the call. Yeah. Like, and it literally says expectations and boundaries. And I was like, this in itself, everyone needs to watch that bit is worth.
Right. I actually did that for, practical sanity, and then being able to actually continue to give value to people without, but also we were always trying to find a way to, it was always without thinking about it deliberately, you're kind of unconsciously trying to figure out how to say that without directly saying that. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, why don't I just fucking say it?
Yeah. Everyone else kind of just beats around the bush, and you're just like, you're not a client. You've bought my program, so do the program, come to the live calls. That's where you get the most value. You don't pay me for one-to-one support, so just don't message me.
And those boundaries and expectations are comforting to the people who bought. They're not let down. They're like, oh, I understand now. Like, because now they're not wondering, well, can I do this? Can I do that? And they're kind of not. Now they're like, okay, I get it. I got to do this, and if I have some support to go here, and if I will want some actual coaching or help on this, then there's other stuff that I can add on.
Exactly. Right. So I thought that was really, really powerful as a kind of a bit of a people pleaser and a bit like, oh, you know, oh yeah, I'll just reply to this question, or just, you know, and trying to blurring the lines all the time between friends and clients, clients and friends, right? Course buyers and clients. It's the lines can get blurry if you don't have those boundaries yourself. But yeah, just seeing him you put there was really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also like what's interesting is like you always want to think meta. So if you're a people pleaser, think about how you can be a better people pleaser. You're actually a better people pleaser if you can actually like not be in reaction and do your job properly and not half answer people and have them also wondering what's going on. So it's actually, you know, doing something in the micro or the moment that seems like it's not a people pleasing type thing to do is actually people pleasing on a larger level.
And meta is like the key word in the whole program, right? So anyway, we're here to talk about content. And I always tell the story is I didn't know who you were. I read one post, I booked a flight to Thailand, and that was like, you know, the beginning. But I think the context of that is that I've never traveled that far, anywhere like that far in my life, never mind as if it was normal. I'd never traveled on my own. I've never left my kids. You know, to me, I didn't buy anyone's courses or programs or go to any events. I was just doing my own thing, staying in my lane. And I was just like, yeah, of course, I'm going to do this ridiculous thing. It was like a no-brainer. And that came off one post. And that's one of the things that you talk about. And when I was looking through the content and I'm working my way through the first bit, like you said, I just go through the first bit and then, you know, come back to it and don't try and do it all at once. And obviously I'm trying to do it all at once because I don't like listen to anyone's advice. And then I looked at all the stuff still to come and I was like, wow, it's just a lot. Yeah. It's unbelievable. So content for me, the big kind of mind-blowing bit of content in the program I've listened to so far was around creating social theatre. There's a whole bit of the section. So yeah. I guess we could start there.
Okay. So what I think I'll do is, because inside the Miller method is there's a lot, and there's purposely a lot, and a lot of like tools and also like templates and stuff. Like I have 2,800 different examples and templates and formulas that they can use, which that alone, just that one tiny piece is pretty crazy. So I can't get into all of it obviously, but I think I'll do is I'll go from the conceptual, like the macro, down to the tiniest micro, as in like, here's a cool word that works, right? So I'll go from, I'll be like like a funnel. I'll go from macro to micro. And I think maybe that'll help piece things together for everybody. So starting from the macro or the meta, on one level, you are, and I don't care what modality you have. I don't care if it's video. I don't care if it's audio. I don't care what social platform it's on, and it can be text also, and it can be a combination of all of them. And in fact, it doesn't really matter what modality that you use, or maybe that you lean on as a crutch, or that you prefer. You can make it work no matter what you do, as long as you have the macro stuff in place. So don't discount like this is everything. All the advice that I'm going to give here and training is applicable to any modality on any type of platform. So on a meta and macro level, you are essentially building your own wave to surf on. So there's a momentum that has to take place, and a lot of what I'm going to talk about here is actually energetic, and I don't talk about that kind of thing much, but because I almost can't really explain how, and that kind of pisses me off. But I think there are energetic, not subconscious, but under the surface stuff happening that is not always explainable with just logic. So you're building a wave to surf on, you're building a momentum. And this is business in general, but this is social media marketing in general. But you are building a wave. You're building a buzz about yourself. Now, we talked about in the positioning section how one of the pieces is that you are essentially, one of the pieces of proof that people don't really realize was proof of an upward spiral, which is essentially people can feel. And I say see, but in reality, because I'm a visual person, but reality is it's a feeling. They can feel that you are there's something exciting happening. There's something's brewing. There's someone on the up and up. There's something exciting brewing and happening. And that is a feeling that you want to build within your audience. And people will come in on that and people can feel it. It's kind of not explainable logically, but you're building a wave for yourself to surf on. And it's kind of like, it's interesting because you build that wave up for yourself. And if you stop it in the middle, kind of like a sneeze, you start all over again, right? Almost, you got to start over again. There's also another activity in which you might have to start all over again if you don't get it right. So essentially you want to build yourself a wave to surf on. And that comes down to the consistency of posting, that comes down to your mood, because you're essentially kind of building a groove for yourself and a kind of a swagger. And the more you really start getting into it and doing it, and the less resistance you have, the better your content will get, the better your vibe will get, and the more that people will feel and want to be around your energy. So on a macro level, we're building a wave to surf on of momentum, and that's just something to keep in mind, because there's many ways to do it. Again, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's just in the Miller method, but it is, because we're going to cover so much I can't get into it all. Just understand that you have to building a buzz for yourself is something that is it's building this thing up, and you start to ride it and move it. And that's consistency, and that's being excited about it. And it's being excited to do it. And if you hate video and you're like, I can't get don't, do something that you can give yourself that buzz to get on. Because once you start doing that, part of building that buzz is using the things that happened the day before. So, this person commented this, so you mentioned that, you do this is this, and then, you tie this to this thing, and people feel like they're coming along for a story and a journey. And part of what we talked about in the positioning webinar, I'm not sure if we did, but what I also teach is the idea that you are, it's best to go into this again real short, is like you're essentially, way back in the day before we had the internet, if all we had was like radio right before the television, and if it was the radio speaking to you, so you had a radio station spoke to you, it was one-sided communication. That was kind of it. The only way you could have social media was if you're just talking to your friends and family in person. That was the old school social media. But what happened when the internet came around and we started being able to do social media, what happened is, instead of the advertising and the marketing and the networks and stations being a one-way communication from them to us, essentially it started to become two-way, and then with each other. And essentially we kind of got sucked into the TV, so to speak, and we became our own network, our own station. And in fact, these platforms, like say, for example, Facebook, really what they are is like a giant network. And then they have all the different stations on that network, and those stations are us. And then we have, our stations or channels, maybe you can look at it as a channel. And then, we have all our own channels, and then we all have our own shows. And that's like a quick little tip, is that if you think about it like that, Facebook's a network, and then your profile is a channel. That means, what kind of shows do you have running on your channel? So that allows me to think about how can I do parallel storylines that are, for example, there could be this parallel storyline where, I'm always out for a morning walk and, commenting on something I see on the street. People get used to that, but doesn't mean you do that regularly, but you're also doing other things, like maybe, doing a piece of content about, you're commenting on something or whatever. But there's these kind of parallel little shows, I guess you could say. And so it's really advantageous to think of yourself as a TV channel, and really understand that, you are essentially the TV now, and there's nothing you can kind of do about it except do it well and roll with it. So that's
my takeaway. You are a TV channel, and there's nothing you can do about it. So roll with it.
Yeah, you're a TV channel, and you got shows on there. So because of that, we want to use that the best we can and make sure people show up. So the next thing I would say is, on the macro level, is you want to be reinforcing, building also showing the identity of this is basic branding, essentially the identity of the person that they want, that they're trying to become, because that's what all of this is about, is people have a desire to be somebody else or be somebody better. And that's essentially what branding is a brand. They call it the brand image, but it's essentially everything about the brand, whether it's its symbols and its vibe and the things it says and the things that the aspirations that it goes for. Everything that the brand represents is the audience's desired self-image. So therefore, all of a sudden, you are attracted to the brand like a moth to a flame, because the brand represents what you're aspiring to be. So it tries to suck that in and fill that gap. A lot of people make a mistake by, like, their brand represents who the person is and not who they want to be. And so because of that, you want to really think about identity and who these people want to be. And a lot of times, if you're a personal brand, you kind of don't have the luxury of being a nameless brand that you can kind of create any kind of brand identity, I guess you could say, and roll with it, because you're kind of you and you don't want to be a fake. You don't want to be a fake person. So you got to really sit down with yourself and be like, do I really represent the identity of the person that my audience wants to become? And if that's true, then you want to just make sure you show that in all the ways that are humanly possible. Again, can't get into that too much here. I trust you. I trust me. I won't be like teasing too much. The macro stuff I'm teasing a lot, because to really go into it, we have to go deep into it. But just understand that on an identity level, they're aspiring to be a certain type of person, and you want to represent that end as much as possible, so that they are, they're inspired and trying to walk there, because they can see that you are already there or been there. Yeah. Enough with the macro. Let's get a little bit more micro. So number one, emotion. When it comes to content, it's all about emotion. If you don't evoke emotion, then you got nothing. And essentially, that's the core problem with everybody's content, mine included. It's one of the hardest things to do, because of course trying to put emotion into your content requires some kind of vulnerability, but also understanding what kind of emotions and what your audience actually wants to hear. But on another level, it doesn't really matter, as long as you are making them feel. I mean, you're on the right track, because emotion is everything. It's how we capture them. It's actually the difference between a local indie band who can't get out of their city, and they just can't get popular, versus a professional artist who does. One can evoke emotion, one can't. You'll even see this with like a local singer can cover an Adele song, but if they don't have the emotion, if they can't really pull that out and draw out the same emotion that Adele does in her song, which is why everybody loves it, then you notice that the singer sings well, even if the notes are pitch perfect. It's missing that soul. It's missing that emotion that really captures people. And so it's the same thing in your content. You could be saying the right words, which is weird, because it's just writing. You think, well, if I say the right emotional words, why aren't people feeling it? Again, there's something else under the surface that I can't explain, that has kind of like a picture is worth 1,000 words. There's something about feeling the emotion when you write it. You could write the same fucking post, but if you're not feeling the emotion when you write it, even though it's the same words, they'll have two completely different outcomes when it comes to engagement. And I can't fucking explain why, but it's true. And do a test and fucking test it. It's true. So the point is, how do you do this? Number one, if you're not in a highly emotional state, but don't bother making content, whether it's video, audio, or writing. If you're not in that highly emotional state, don't bother. If you want to go a little more strategic, you can be like, okay, what do I, and we'll go into like, what the fuck do I post about in a second, but you think about, okay, what emotion do I want to convey here and make them feel, and then get in that feeling, or else don't even bother typing or spitting out a word. How do you get into that feeling? Well, we'll talk about this in a second, but like really, you shouldn't even be sitting down to be like, okay, I'm gonna now make a piece of content like it's a job, even though it is part of your job. You shouldn't even be doing that, and you're trying to capture lightning in a bottle. There's something that fucking hits you, and something that is a spark. And I'll show you how to get that spark, because if you're like, well, I sit around all day and I don't get that spark of great content, it's because we'll talk about it in a second. So really, you're capturing lightning in a bottle. You're capturing a moment. You're capturing a sizzling thought or inspiration that hits you, and you're trying to get it down, whether it's on video or writing. You're trying to get the essence of it down before the emotion dissipates, because then you lose it. So they say you should never make decisions in a highly emotional state, but the opposite is true when you are getting thoughts out and opinions in writing. Some of my best stuff comes from rants when I'm fucking pissed off about something. I love being pissed off because there's a productive, aggressive anger energy, that irritated kind of ranting energy that pumps out great content. And you can always edit it a little bit later if you want to, but I don't recommend it. The best content that's ever had the best engagement for me has always been, it's never the one that I'm laboring over and like trying to do this and that. It's one that just like, and fire it out. Whatever reason, that is what it is. So you want to understand that the intensity at which you create a piece of content and the emotional intensity, they're going to feel that intensity, maybe not at that level, they probably less than you, of course, but which means that you may have to kind of like going to with a camera, you may have to be more dramatic in order to just come off as a normal, because you lose some of that energy through a camera or through the fingers. So you want to be in that highly emotional state. If you're not in that state, don't bother. If you got a great idea for something, you're like, oh, this is cool, but it's like you're not really into it. What you do is get into it, piss yourself off, go to YouTube. If you want to write about this one thing, maybe start researching and finding stuff that like really reinforces it and gets you pissed off about it. Maybe you think of okay, what kind of song here would start getting me to feel how I really need to feel even more, and then do that, loop that song, write the fucking content. So emotion is everything. And there's also how to put emotion into it, like with specific words and pauses and stuff. I'm going to a little bit of that, but that's the one thing I want people to understand about emotion, is that you're capturing a lightning in a bottle. And when you got something and something hits you, you got to get it before you start doubting yourself, second guessing yourself, because once you start doing that, you're clouding up other emotions, and then you start blocking your creativity and everything, and then you won't get anything out. It'll just never happen.
Which is one of the reasons why I talk about not scheduling stuff, because a lot of people come to me and say, I want to schedule all my posts for the next 6 months. And I'm like, but how you feel now is not going to, the energy is not going to be there. Even if you feel it now and you're posting it in 3 months, it's not going to be quite the same. I get writing lots of content when you're in the zone and you're feeling it. But I think the big takeaway from that for me was like, and I've said this many times, is like, it shouldn't feel like hard work. It should be a creative expression of how you're feeling in the moment, not a job I've got to do, although it is a job you've got to do. So sometimes you do have to churn out some content to be consistent. That's another thing that you talk about in the program, right? About reliable consistency. It doesn't mean you have to be on all the time, but you do need to be reliably consistent, so your audience obviously knows when to tune in for the next show, right? But
yeah, not consistently inconsistent, but like you can be consistent in the fact where it's like, I don't have to do it every day. Yeah. I'm going to do it 3 times a day. I'm going to do it twice a week, whatever it is. Seth Godin, I love him. He only does a blog, like a written blog post on his blog once a week or something, and that's it. But he's done that for 25 years. So
and exactly. Yeah, like notes from the universe. He just sends out that thing every day, and that consistency makes a huge difference. But I think as well about the different channels, it's, for me, it's kind of, I have themes. So just using me as an example, I definitely have themes. I have themes. My house is a theme, that journey of me buying the house and moving in. And, whenever I post pictures of me in the house, people talk about the house. My children are obviously a theme. My marriage has been a theme. My business success has been a theme. But I have hills that I will die on. And there's things that I truly, truly believe in, like teenage mental health, all that kind of stuff. But I don't get involved in the topic of the day. I see a lot of people riding these, and it's kind of, at the moment, there's a big thing going on in coaching about this, and everyone's posted about integrity and how, and all this kind of stuff going on. And I'm just like, I'm not saying a word, because even if I posted about how irritating I find it, it's still joining in with the thing.
Just as bad, if not fucking worse. If not fucking worse. Oh, it's like, oh wow, you're so fucking meta, man. But you're still bitching about it. Like,
yeah. So I'm like, I'm not getting involved, but it does annoy me. But I don't want to go on and rant about that, because it's kind of like, it's not one of my themes. One of my themes is not a bitch about the coaching industry. It's just not one of my themes. It's a very well-worn trope that I see every other coach and mentor seems to be going on about it. And I'm kind of thinking, what do you do? What do you do? Like, you're going on about what everyone else does. And, and like you said last week, people who say like, oh, integrity is my highest value. You think, I don't know, posting shit about the coaches is your highest value. Like, stop. But I always think, pick the hills you want to die on, the things you truly believe in, talk about those, rant about those, have that as one of your themes and one of your shows. But don't try and just jump on everything that's passing by, because it just seems really false and inauthentic when you see it. It's boring, isn't it?
yeah, that's right. Oh, and it's super insane when there's only certain industries like say coaching and stuff like that, where most of their content is bitching about their industry, the coaching industry. When if you fucking think about it, it's like, can you imagine if like you're trying to like, get some landscaping done, and you're trying to get some advice, like you're looking around this, and all you see is like these, like they're talking about other landscapers, and like they're just like, do you give a fuck about that? Like, people wonder why they get no sales. You're talking about your own industry to your audience who's not in the fucking industry. Like, they're like, it blows my mind.
Blows my mind too. But again, that's their stuff, and I just unfollow people with pleasure. But it's interesting that people ride the wave of other people's content, and I think people seem to forget that a lot of people follow the same people, and it's just so samey. But to be fair, reading your stuff, so I'm going to become my own case study next year with Mitch's stuff. I'm going to apply it, I'm going to learn, I'm going to apply it, I'm going to execute. Mitch did say I'm one of the best executors he's met from when we did the mastermind, didn't he? When I used to be there 9 o'clock in the morning with my book and pen, like, right, what are we doing today? I did all the things we did last quarter, what are we doing next quarter, right? And I think for me, I have thought, maybe I have gone a bit vanilla and neutral. Maybe I have forgotten about the things that I'm really passionate about. I've played it a bit safe, I think, in the last 12. I've got a lot of good shows that are a lot of very positive, my marriage, my home, and all that. Like, I need to bring out a bit of my old bit of the old me. When I used to be really controversial, I used to, get a lot more drama. But I kind of try to avoid drama, so I don't want to create drama, but I also want to reposition myself as having beliefs in the things that I believe in.
Yeah, and everybody it's like this, and everybody goes through this, and it comes down to like a renewed sense of purpose and passion and motivation, which just comes from sitting in a dark room and having some deeper introspection. But what you said is very, very important about lining up your content for 6 months in advance, like a fucking content calendar. You're an idiot. It's like the people who talk about content calendars are people who only make money selling content calendars. No fucking way, because it's organic social media. So what that means is that it's organic. It's with the audience, because this having a content calendar, or thinking what you're going to do for the week, unless it's on a macro level, right, with the themes, right? If you're talking about like the themes, like you have the theme of the house buying, you're like, well, and if you do think about it in themes like that, the house, buying the house is the theme, marriage is the theme, how can on a macro conceptual level, you can think about how you can plan that out creatively and do creative things that week, but not in the micro, like, okay, I made these 6 posts, I'm going to do these one a day. That's fucking stupid, unless it's like an 8-part, 6-part, 3-part series. That's a different story. But if we're talking about regular stuff, you do not do that, because the analogy that will completely have you guys agree with me and can't fight it at all is simply a DJ in a nightclub. They pay the DJ has a set list. But trust me, he deviates, and he also he feels the room. Otherwise, they would just put the playlist on Spotify and that's it. And the DJs that do that fail, because you gotta feel the room. You want to imagine yourself in some ways as a DJ on your fucking profile, and all the people in the room are people who essentially will will pay attention to you, and you don't just blabber off stuff and not have your finger on the pulse of how they're feeling and what they're doing. That's part of building the wave. That's the way a DJ can build a wave, and people go crazy and rush the DJ and go nuts, because he's not just playing the songs one after another. He feels how you're feeling. Oh shit, I gotta change this. They gotta feel more of this. And now I need to make this part extra longer because I really need to build it up more, because I haven't quite caught them enough to fucking build them up to the point where I can fucking drop the beat and have them actually give a shit about it. So that's why it's organic.
Yeah, that is the analogy nobody can argue with. I love that, because everyone's been to that shit wedding where he's just playing a playlist and he's not deviating, and people are just like walking off the, people are losing their shits or something, and then he plays something completely different. Everyone just walks off and sits down, and he doesn't think, oh, that was a mistake. But when you go to see a proper DJ in action, it's made me want to go to Ibiza. Like,
and think of even worse. A lot of people are guilty of this. Imagine the DJ is like asking the audience to fucking like give me a beat for 20 seconds. Do this. What do you think? What do you want to hear? Fucking stupid. But on social media, everyone's like, what's their biggest business problem? What's this? There's like little questions like that. Cheap, lazy content.
I always say that, lazy content. Anyone who's because obviously I do LinkedIn, and I saw a post of somebody who drives me mad, but anyway, and he was like, LinkedIn people with no engagement, blah blah blah, well, they're all fakes or whatever. And I was like, there's two things wrong with that. One, engagement doesn't pay your mortgage, so that's not what we're focused on. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to get engagement on LinkedIn. You just post about Meghan and Harry, or I put a post up about whether when you put water on your car, is it going to crack the windscreen when it's icy? Because that was something I was doing that morning, right? In that moment, I was actually having that debate in my kitchen. I was like, it's an urban myth. And, my mother-in-law was going, yeah, but you can't be too careful. And, it's kind of topical. Post about it, thousands and thousands and thousands of views and hundreds of votes on my poll. It's not going to get me any business. It gets me engagement. And then the second thing is, posting on LinkedIn about how shit LinkedIn trainers are is the laziest piece of content ever, because everybody rushes to the comments like, oh yeah, they're all shit. And it's just like, how is that helping you with your business? Like, that's
right. Yeah. How does that make you fucking money? It certainly doesn't position you as an expert. You think it does, but it doesn't. And even just asking those dumb questions, what's your top 3, things that you need help with, or have a problem with this, or what frustrates you about the thing that I sell? And it's fucking dumb, because it does 2 things. Number one, it positions you as somebody who is super uncreative and has no idea what to fucking help people with, which then goes into the second part, which is it positions you as, because we want to position ourselves as experts, but doing that, position yourself as the opposite of a fucking expert, because you should fucking know what like you're asking as if you don't know. Like, it's insane. So it shows that you're uncreative, you're lazy, you have no idea what to post, and it also shows that you're not an expert.
But there's so many people teaching the opposite. It drives me insane. It's like, oh yeah. And then DM them all, and anyway.
But again, they only make money fucking teaching people. It's incredible. Like, and most of them, they don't see that. Like, they're essentially scamming people, but they don't know it. They don't know. Like, they actually think they're legitimately doing something good for people. It's weird.
Yeah, and then when something happens, they're like, oh my god, this big thing's happened. It's like, oh my god, you realize nobody cares in the whole world. Like, this is the tiniest subsection of the internet, and it's not that important. Just get on with what you're doing. How are you helping more people today, right?
Yeah. People use that kind of content as a procrastination, and kind of like it's a fear of fucking selling and getting to the point and just saying you got something valuable shit. So if we go a little bit more micro, you want to think of your content as social currency. Think of yourself, think of yourself as a mint, like you're a minting press. You're creating money every time you make content, because that's the truth. I mean, that's the whole idea around sharing. People share not because they think your content's awesome. It's because they share because they think that your content will make them look awesomer by sharing it. There's a big distinction there. He's like, oh, you share my content. My content's awesome. It's like nothing to do with you, man. They shared it to get the points from you, the social currency. So thinking about it in that sense, why don't you create the social currency? Why don't you purposely do that? Now, what this allows you to do is to get outside your own fucking head, and it allows you to essentially regulate your own content and kind of see it from the outside. And there's a couple exercises that I'll give here, just 2 of them. The rest are inside the damn program. But there's kind of 3 tips here. So the first one would be, since you are essentially creating and minting social currency for people to make them look good, this again, right? So why are all your posts shitting on everybody when it's like, you know, when the goal is to make them look good and be able to cash this social currency into their friends, family, audience. And so what you want to think about here, and you can do that sometimes. It's not like I don't do that, but I do it a bit. And I know that it's the seasoning, not the steak, or else you look like a fucking resentful, bitter, you know, but so it's the seasoning, not the steak. And I also know that it's not going to get lots of shares and engagement. So I will post stuff that is super absurd, but it's for a reason. Like on my TikTok yesterday, I posted you know, a little weird ranting video that's super fucked up. But knowing that I know exactly what kind of like what that content does. First of all, most people won't like it and are afraid to like it because they don't want to be seen as being like it, but they secretly love it.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not going to share it. But that doesn't mean it wasn't good or wasn't valuable. It just means that they it's not social currency for them. So they don't want to be seen with it, but they secretly love it. Been told that time and time and time again. So this is the exception, not the rule. 80-20, 90-10, you want to ask yourself, number one, what I just posted, would they wear on a t-shirt? Would they wear it? Would they wear it? Would they be seen having been taken a picture with that on their shirt? Will they go to the mall with that on their shirt? Okay. And you imagine that. I mean, everybody has an imagination enough to do that. And you really kind of like think about it and weigh that on a scale. And if you first time you've ever done an exercise like this, there's 2 more, then it might seem a bit weird, but it really does work. As long as you're kind of tapped into your audience, and most people are tapped in enough. And so would they wear it on a shirt? There's so many ways to go about this. I won't get into like kind of like being first to share something that seems to be new, right? Like if you know, Eminem drops an album, it's like, how can I be the first to, you know, I know a couple friends I know love Eminem. Can I be the first to message and break the news to him? You know, so a lot of people want to be a news breaker. So like there's many different ways and things that you can do, where it's like, you want to make sure that you're the first one to tell your friends that. Again, that's social currency. So the first thing is like, would they wear it on a shirt? The second thing is what I call like an imagined room scenario. So what you do is, I like to do this for the general gist of my piece of content. So I take the piece of content and I imagine that there's 100 of my potential prospects and audience in the room, and they're sitting down on a chair and I'm standing up at the front of the room and I'm looking at them. This works great because 80% of the success of a sales letter or a piece of copywriting is actually the headline in the first few sentences you lead with. That actually determines the sale, because not only do they not even get into it if the fucking headline and lead isn't good, but that generally sells them. So when you think about this room in your mind with 100 of your prospective clients sitting in the thing, and you're standing there looking at them, and you ask the question, right? Like, who here would like to know about a way to pay your home off in only not 9 years from now, you know, without blah, 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 whatever the thing is, and you imagine them and see how many hands would go up, right? Like, here's an example of a big contrast. So you imagine the room, let's say you're selling real estate investing. So you ask the question, who here is interested in doing real estate investing, no money down, homes in Austin, Texas? Put your hand up. You'll get like 1. But if you change the question, so shit, because in your mind you think like, oh, we get one. But if you ask the question, who here is interested in the idea of real estate investing? Most hands, many and most hands go up. Here's the thing about this. You want to ask yourself, how can I get the most hands to go up? If you think this is silly, you're not listening. So how can we make more hands go up? Okay, who's here is interested in the idea of real estate investing? In a room with 100 potential prospects. If let's just assume these are not real estate investor interested people. Let's just say these are normal people. And maybe you're all about different types of investments, right? So who hears that? You'll get like maybe half the room, whatever, maybe 80% are interested in the idea. What is something else you can ask first that would get all the hands to raise up? Okay, how about this? Who here needs to and wants to make more money this year than you did last year? Put your hand up. You're not stupid. 100% of the hands are going up. And the couple that aren't, they're lying.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you know what realm you fucking have to start with your audience to get everybody to at least read the next line or listen to the next line. Now you know how to fucking start something, right? Then what's the second sentence? Because you step it down. Okay, who here would like to make more money this year than last year? Who would be interested in doing it in a way that who would like to do that in a way that required only 5 extra hours a week of your attention and no money out of your pocket and none of your credit being used for this? Who would be interested in something like that? Okay, now you'll get most hands, maybe almost all would still stay up. So a few people will be like, what the fuck are you doing, or whatever, but the mass majority of hands will be up. Okay, well, who here would be interested in being able to make an extra, whatever it is, with only 5 hours a week of your time, with no credit down, no money, whatever, and investing in real estate? A lot of the hands are going to drop. What can we do first instead? Okay, will you say investing in real estate, even if you've never fucking done it before, and there was a step-by-step way that you couldn't fail and it was foolproof. Now all the hands stay up, and then you can you can keep going. So when you're creating this content, or even when you're structuring copy, you want to make sure that when you go through it, the hands are always staying up. And if the bunch of them drop, then you want to go back and say, what the fuck do I have to add here so that the hands all stay up, so that by the end they're slow boiled like a frog in cold water up to boiling, and they don't even know, but you kept the hands up all the way through. So it's more of a secret of copywriting than and making offers than it is content, although they will intertwine together. But these scenarios really help. Actually, I won't even go through the second scenario. We'll go into ideas in a sec, but that is a big help for me when I'm imagining how to talk to my audience.
Yeah, it's really, because the way I write LinkedIn profiles is about getting people to lean in. So it's almost like when they see the headline in the first line, it's like, are you this person? So it's like broad, like you say, are you a HR director, for example? Yeah. So they're in, so they click to read more. And then it's like, do you have these frustrations? Are these things happening? Do you want these things to happen? And I want them to be going, yeah. And then if so, I can help. And this is how, I am no copywriter, but that's the structure that we make it all about them. And we start broad. And like you say, to keep their attention. And then we make it smaller and then overcome all the objections in the second half and then give them a call to action. So it's very basic, but it's really fucking effective. Otherwise, mad stuff wouldn't work, right? Because it's
right. Well, you don't have to create a whole brand new circus act. Like, people sleep on the basic because they feel it's not created, and they feel like the market's so saturated that if they say the basic, it's not going to work. Generally that's not true, because people need the basics. You can't go too far off or else you're too wacky. And so what you're doing is correct. Sometimes you just have to say, hey, are you this? Pay attention. Like, yeah,
are you this person? Do you feel this way? Right. So so good. So good. Right. What was the next thing?
Okay, we'll go a little bit more micro now and get into ideas. What the fuck do I write about? Because, a personal trainer, they'll get into they'll just get so micro into what they're doing that they're doing like, how to do arm curls. And it's just like, nobody gives a fuck about that kind of content. And once they do that, they don't know what to do anymore. And so I want to smash into, at least gloss over the surface of how to never run out of ideas, how to make sure they're good and all that. First thing to do is to wake up and open your eyes, because if you're lacking content ideas, you're fucking asleep at the wheel. And all you have to do is actually just tell yourself that everything that happens to me, around me, everything I watch, everything I listen to, everything I experience can be a piece of interesting content for me. There's always a way to put it in. Like, one stupid example is I was selling a course in 2017 called Instant Confidence Secret. And I was the news one day here in Thailand. It had a picture of this naked man in handcuffs, and they had his junk was all blurred out, and he was in handcuffs with the police, and he was smiling from ear to ear. And I was like, and the headline said, man arrested for making love to a cow. And the story was basically he snuck into somebody's property, and he like had a crush on this cow, and so he'd always sneak in and he'd be petting it or kissing it, and one day he started trying to mate with it, and whoever had enough, and they arrested the damn guy. And there's quotes from him saying, like, I love her. So anyway, the point is that's the most fucking random story that you can imagine, that has no tie-in to the product that I'm selling, but I can tie it in. And I did a post on it. And essentially I shared that picture, and I shared the post, and I said, and if you would like to have the shameless, freeing confidence that this man has, go after what he believes is right. No matter the consequences, get the Instant Confidence Secrets course. So no matter what you're fucking watching on Netflix, I don't care where you're at the mall, what you talk about with your friends, everything can be tied in, and everything is an interesting idea for content if you have your eyes open for it.
Massive takeaway. Honestly, that's the number one thing. It's like, it's everywhere. There's about 172 things that happen to me every day that I could use as content.
Yep.
It baffles me when people say I don't know what to post.
Yep. And it's everything. Everything ties in, and it'll require you to work the muscle work your lateral thinking muscle, because it can take a little bit to rebuild that muscle. But the lateral thinking muscle is, can you connect? Can you see metaphor and analogy in many things, right? So it's like, looking at, it's like, okay, well, I do copywriting and I see a guitar across from me here. How can the guitar be tied into what I'm doing? Well, you start picking it apart. You're like, you got the strings and the volume knob, and you got different tunings. And, when you do copy, when you start writing copy that is perfectly in tune with your market, it's like having the note perfectly in tune, like a tuning fork. And if it's off, there's that wobble. And if there's that wobble, that's where they're going to fall off. So you want to make sure that your copy is always tuned up to be exactly right in line with the harmony, the harmonic resonance of your audience, or else it's like they're standing on the string and they're like a little ant. And when you pluck that, they could completely fall right off. But it's not, there's a fucking million ways you tie it, but you just begin to see how everything connects to each other, because that's how the universe works. Everything is connected to each other, and everything is repeating patterns no matter what it is. It's like the ocean, you got the wave that comes up and then it's gone, right? That's just like us with birth and death, just this macro, micro. You got if you zoom into our bloodstream, if you zoom into your bloodstream deep enough, magnify that enough, you would see a horrific war going on. You would see things fighting each other. You'd see things that are like, you'd see different cells and bacteria of your body that need to be there fighting with each other. But if you zoom out, then it's actually a complete harmony on that level. But if you actually, so that's kind of like, you know, why do we have wars and disease and murder and all this terrible stuff that we have on the world? Well, maybe just like our bloodstream, where if you're zoomed into it too much, they're all fighting each other and it's a battle. If you were to pick sides at that level, you would die. Maybe with all of our wars, disease, sickness, and everything that's bad here, maybe if you zoom out a certain level of magnification that we're not quite aware of yet, maybe it's actually harmony and makes sense. So just understand everything's connected to itself. Everything's connected to each other. You have no content. The only thing that you have when it comes to lacking content ideas or good ideas is the belief that you're lacking or having any content ideas or problems at all. That's simply it. It's just mind fucking yourself. Also look outside your market. All of us have passions outside of what we do in our markets. So, you know, maybe you're really interested in fucking, you know, homemade soap making, or maybe like, you know, horse racing or something, whatever it is you're looking at this stuff on YouTube or whatever that you're interested in. And there's lots of advertisers there. There's lots of influencers there doing their thing. And maybe you looked at a video of like, you know, 11 fucking funky ways to make homemade soap using, you know, old fingernails and, you know, dead cat fur or something, whatever it is. And that caught your attention. You're looking at that. Well, man, that piece of content, how they did it, how they titled it, why don't you fucking take that framework and that container and boom, make it over to what you're doing? Like all day long, we're watching excellent content in other industries, not ours, and we're not realizing that those are fucking pre-made, templated out frameworks for our own content. So someone said I don't have any ideas for content. Like, geez, man, like you're that's why I said you're seriously asleep. Like,
but I don't think sometimes once you give people permission to do that, it kind of opened the floodgates. I think it's not people don't know what to post. They're just frightened of getting it wrong. They're frightened of putting out the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or what people say, what people think. And I've not got to the mindset bit of the Miller method yet. I'm sure it's going to be incredible. I like the way you put it at the end, not the beginning, because you're like, it's not really I don't want to be a fucking life coach, but you're going to need some of this stuff. I think that's what holds a lot of people back. I'm scared, basically. I'm scared of what might happen.
They're holding back. I mean, that's one question I always ask people if we're on a call for whatever reason. I'm always asking, like, I always say, what part of your personality do you let shine in your real life that you're holding back online? And it's like, and they're always like, oh yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, it's like, no wonder. It's like you're holding back. You don't have to tell everybody you have fucking hemorrhoids every day. It's not about the it's not about like, you know, vomiting out your every detail of your life in order to seem authentic, which is fucking stupid. You can tell basically nothing about your life. I'm sure. I promise you, people did business with each other quite normally and healthy, you know, before the advent of fucking social media, where we had to tell everybody we had a pimple on our ass in order to be fucking, you know, ethical and vulnerable enough to, you know, to be worth doing business with. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, bringing your passions in. I post about kickboxing a lot. You know, I know you post about your motorbikes, and I think well, I've got a client. She's an accountant. She also rides motorbikes, and I was like, I know loads of accountants and loads of people who ride motorbikes, but I don't know an accountant who rides motorbikes. And since she started posting more about her motorbikes, she's got more clients who want to use her as an accountant who also are into motorbikes, because it obviously draws people in. You've got the commonality. I mean, that sounds really basic, but actually people don't do it. They say, well, I don't really post about, like, again, so I go back to LinkedIn, but why would I post about my motorbikes on LinkedIn? I'm just there for business network. And it's like, no, because people build that, you know, that character and he shows you as a 4D person, not just this, I'm an accountant, which is boring, you know, sad with love. Like, people don't want to know about accountancy because that's why they hire you. If they want to know about it, they'd be an accountant, right? But they don't. So
yeah, like the lawyer on YouTube who wears leather jackets in all of his videos, fuck, you'll kill it. Like, you'll kill it.
Or which bit of you are you dialing down? I did a whole session with spiritual business owners and about how they, like, you know, they won't talk about spirituality, or they're you know, it's almost like they're in the spiritual closet, you know. It's like, talk about it, because yeah, some people will be completely turned off, and that's all right, but other people will be really drawn in. So yeah, having that as one of your themes for sure.
Yeah, we talked about that in position. You want to turn people off. Like, if you're not trying to turn people off, that means you ain't trying to turn them on enough.
Yeah.
And therefore you're stuck in the middle and nobody gives a shit about you. I mean, yeah, no one gives a crap. So you're like a character in the movie where they don't give a fuck if you live or die. They barely remember that you were there.
I know Ruth asked in the Q&A, like the TV channel analogy, does that mean we need to entertain Dancing Monkey, or what do we need to do with our TV channel?
Well, that's the thing. All that's in the Miller method when it comes to entertaining and the nuances of entertaining, because entertaining is not what most people think. Entertaining is a lot of things that has nothing to do. See, people conflate entertaining people with essentially just like trying to get their approval at all costs, including their own fucking dignity. That's not entertainment. Entertainment's so many other things, right? I mean, entertainment is essentially, actually, you know what, we'll get into this right now, because that's the second last piece of this going micro is what I call the wheel of value, which is, and part of that, what that piece is entertainment. So the wheel of value going more micro is, you'll never run out of ideas, but you do want to think of your general themes and how you come across in your content, almost like a pie chart. You have different pieces you want to hit, and you want to hit them more or less equally. And if you do too much of one, or you get stuck into one, which a lot of people are, then you will find yourself in a content rut, and you'll find that your audience will get burned out from you fast, and you're not a well-rounded thing. Like talking about like what kind of parts of your personality you're not putting in. Well, what kind of content themes are you not putting in? I don't mean themes like we're talking about with you, with the themes on the channel and the shows. I'm talking about the themes as far as here. There's only 4 ways that you can help people, and all of us, no matter what business we're in the business of helping people. There's only 4 ways you can do that. Number 1, you can directly help them or offer to help solve their problem. That's called sales. It's called asking for money for something. And we all have that, right? Because we all have the fucking products. So that's taken care of. We can, just straight up solve their problem for them or offer to. The second way we can help people is we can educate them on how to better solve their problem. That's fine, right? That's educational content. That's how to do the bicep curl, all of that. That's great. That's fine. Most people are kind of only there. The next way you can help people is you can empower them to solve their problem, empower them to help, solve their problem, stuff like that. Empower, motivate them. Okay, that's great. And then the last one is you can entertain them. And I urge you to find another one, because there's not. And if there is, I will completely eat humble pie and I'll be happy, and then I'll start teaching it, but I can't find one. So the last one is entertain. And it's interesting because entertainment, now I said helping people with their problems. I didn't say that entertainment solves their problems, although it may indirectly in some ways, but entertainment oftentimes is not there to solve the problem. It's there for them to take their mind off the problem. This is why entertainment sells so well. Sports, like what is that? It's like even the problem of life. It's like when you go to the concert, when you watch the show, when you watch the influencer who's teaching something in an entertaining way, you watch the sports. It's like, what is all of that? All of that is being distracted from your problems, whether it's a specific problem or just the drudgery or stress of everyday life. Entertainment is escapism. And that's so necessary. And I fight with coaches all the time who are like I would never do that. Like, even being like a life coach or a peak performance coach, whatever the fuck that is, they're just like, I'm all about, I'm the guy who gives it to you real. I tell you to tackle your problems. We're not going to run from your problems. That's the opposite of what I do. Okay, dude. Well, you know who you're going to be to them, to your audience? You're going to be that guy who, when you hang out with him, he's a cool guy, but God forbid something triggers him and he starts talking about Jesus. And then for the whole goddamn conversation you're with him, he's so all about it, you can't get him off the topic. He's quoting the Bible, this and that, and you're just like, everybody has a friend like that. And it's I'm not saying Jesus is specifically, but whatever it is that they get locked on, and it's a one-track thing. And if all the time you hang out with your friend, all he does is talk about fucking God, it's like, regardless if you're religious or not, you get tired of it. And you're just like, dude, you're a one-note song. and you get tired of it. And in fact, you kind of don't want to hang out with them as much because you know it's going to be just one thing. It's like, hey, can we just talk about something else? Can we just fucking chill and laugh about something? Why do we have to be so serious all the time? Why does it have to be about this one thing? The same thing with you. So, you know, you may be a coach that, you know, I want to make sure I'm, you know, on, do that, but then realize that you're not being the type of person that people actually fucking want to be around. You start repelling them when you're like that. So it's important that you entertain them and give them breaks from your intensity of whatever the fuck you're doing. Some people are so intense with their content. This. It's like, yo, fucking let up, man. Give it a break. Give it a rest. And entertainment, I'll get into this in the Miller method so much, is like entertainment is not, again, dancing around and like, you know, throwing your dignity away and seeking approval. Entertainment is many other things. For example, surprise, mystery, teasing. There's so much to it that has nothing to do with what people generally think of as having to be entertaining on social media. And so when I talk about the wheel of value, I'm like, yeah, you want to have an equal portion of empowering, equal portion of entertainment, equal portion of educating, equal portion of just straight up doing offers and asking people to buy, because most of you guys probably on this are asking for money way too infrequently, and it's mind-blowing. And in fact, the more offers you make and the more times and more consistent you ask for money and more frequently you ask for money, the more you get it. Well, obviously, right? But we don't do it.
But we don't do it. We don't want to post about sales all the time. Again, that is something that drives me mad. You know, it's like, just put more offers out, sell often and sell early, sell often. And, you know, people get used to buying from you. They get used to seeing what you're selling. It's, if you're going to use the television analogy, you've got to have a commercial break. Otherwise you're running that fucking channel for free and you'll burn out. You'd be like, why is no one buying from me? Because nobody knows what you buy, what you sell.
And people are afraid they're going to look bad when they sell, and they don't want to taint what they're doing with sales. I tell you what, the opposite's going to happen. And I've had this happen a million times to my clients, is because the thing is, your offers and selling stuff, that's what gives, a part of that is what gives your fucking content value. Because you start selling shit, it actually gives your content value. And so, like, by not doing that, your content is actually super cheap and it becomes meaningless. And here's an example. 6-7 years ago, one of my friends, his wife was a professional chef thing, books, TV, and all of that. And he wanted me to write an email promotion to sell a bunch of her recipe stuff or her course to her members. Like, this is to her email list and group, people who are hardcore fans of her for years and years and years, but she never sold them anything. She was always too afraid to, so she always just did content and I'll cash in later. Well, I wrote email sequences and posts for the group, and they posted them. Guess what happened? The biggest rush of hate you could ever imagine. People like disowning her, never wanting to come back, offended that she fucking asked for money. And you know what happened? Uli was cool with me. His wife was angry at me, thinking I completely like wrote this I was too aggressive, which I wasn't, but it was because it was coming from no offers ever. It looks so aggressive, which is another hint. The more frequently you post offers, the less aggressive they seem, less of a shock they seem, and the more normal they become, right? If you have TV shows where there's never any commercials and all of a sudden you start putting them in, people will riot. But if you had commercials the whole time, it just is what it is. And then they buy. And so when she was so angry at me and it didn't work and all that, she's never going to fucking offer something for sale again. I told her, I said, man, if you had sold something from the very start, even a bit, this would never have happened.
Mm-hmm. So true. Why are people so scared? And do you know what? Again, this is all the marketers. They're like, you've just got to be adding value. You can't be posting all the time. You can't be selling all the time. You should, you got, and it's like, no, you're not selling anything. So you want everyone else to be like you. That's why you're pissed off that other people are selling stuff, because you're not selling anything. And the reason why is because you're not putting offers out. Like, I had someone ring me who we both know, and I won't name, and he was like, you're just posting all the time. You're just selling all the time. And I'm like, yeah, because I need to pay my fucking mortgage. Like, I'm selling because I want people to buy stuff. So
I'm a business. what the fuck? Like,
It's
right?
like,
Like,
what? I was like, it's like you just look, it makes you look like manic and desperate. And I was like, I'm making a shitload of money, babe. I'm all right. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Like, you worry about yours. But it's really interesting what I saw you post actually about people who've been a rising star and then they're on the way down.
yep.
And they're kind of like real, not happy about stuff. So interesting.
Yeah, and so and the biggest like the line that comes out of everybody's mouth when they're afraid of selling too much, they say, well, what if nobody buys when I put it out there? What if no one buys it? Well, here are two things. Number one, if you don't put it out there, nobody's guaranteed to buy.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, if nobody buys, nobody fucking knows that nobody bought.
I always say that when I say to people in like a mastermind, I'll be like, I put out offers all the time that no one buys. They go, do you? And I was like, yeah, of course. I just put out different offers or put it out again and someone will buy or something. And it's like, that's the game, isn't it? That's business. It's the fun of it.
You don't know. You're making a new offer. You have no fucking clue if it's going to work. And even David Ogilvy himself, one of the kings of advertising, when it came to ad campaigns that he would do for fucking Coca-Cola or whatever the fuck brands at the time, 19 out of 20 of the campaigns that they launched failed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucking Ogilvy. So come on, like.
Yeah, you're so arrogant. You think that every offer you're gonna put out is sell. Like, don't make me laugh. But like you say, you're definitely not gonna sell it if you don't put it out. The other thing I hear a lot is, I put that offer out and it didn't work. I'm like, how many times did you post about it? It's like, oh well, you know how social media works, right? It's like,
yeah. Exactly. And people need the frequency. The more you post about something, the more that people are fucking aware of it, and the more that they get into it, and the more that they feel like it must be something. And if Ogilvy has 19 out of 20 campaigns fail, you only needed a couple big ones to make history, right? Of these campaigns. And same with your offers. You only need one to fucking feed you for a year or even more. It's like you only need one to work. It's like, it's like, oh, it's too hard to make a funnel, man. It's like, oh, I keep doing this. Like, well, fuck, you only need one to pop. You got one to pop, you're rich. Like,
I think of all the things I've built and sold that haven't worked. I mean, but you find something that's your runner and your rider, isn't it? LinkedIn Mastermind for me was my runner. Like that went. Loads of other things. I've closed down loads of things, programs that haven't worked or I've not enjoyed, or that just do my head in. I've changed so many things. But I've always had that one thing that is my main thing, and all roads lead there. But I put out little offers all the time because it's fun. If I want to do a mastermind day and I want to make $3,000 and have 5 people come to my house, then it's fun for me to make that money. It's fun for me to have those people around to my house. It's fun, So for me, it's I don't have that emotional attachment to it. If I put an offer out and no one buys it, I'm like, okay. Like, I don't
now know what not to do.
Yeah, it's like, people didn't want to buy that right now. I don't attach my own emotional, self-worth or concerns about my business to other people's buying decisions. I'm like, people don't want to buy it right now. That's cool. Like, I could put it out next week and people will buy it. I think people get so caught up in you've got to get it, that bullseye thing that works.
You get it right. You can't get it right without the feedback from the market in real time. That's why Windows releases the next Windows version and it has all the bugs and shit, and they have the market work it out for them. If they waited till it was perfect, it can't be, and it wouldn't be, because you need the market feedback in order to make it perfect. So none of us are so on the ball that we think that, okay, I'm just going to do this and all of a sudden everyone's going to fucking celebrate it and fucking hoist me up over their shoulders and fucking give me their life savings. That's fucking delusional. And part of that is being like having that crammed down your throat by other marketers who are too liberal and loose with their lips just to get a fucking sale, and they kind of screw up everybody's expectations and that were never fucking realistic in the first place.
Yeah, they tell people what they want to hear. That's how they make their money. This is what I always say. When I say you've got to post consistently on LinkedIn, for example, then someone else is selling a course where, no, you just write this one killer post once a month. And it's like, that's not true. Like, you're just saying that because that's what people want to hear. If I said that, I'd sell more courses, but it's not true. So people say things that aren't true because it's what people want to hear, instead of saying people don't want to hear, which is, you've got to be consistent, you've got to show up, you've got to do the work, right? It's not as sexy, but it is important. Just quickly, I know I've taken up loads of your time. I'm going to put the link into the Miller method in a minute as well. But what about engagement? Because I get asked this all the time. I'm not getting engagement. How do I get more engagement? And I'm like, who gives a fuck about engagement? Engagement doesn't pay your bills. However, you might have a different opinion on people commenting and liking and engaging with your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thermometer. It's like, if you're not getting any sales and you're not getting engagement, like you're something seriously wrong. I mean, when you do make offers, like actual offers on social media, those get the least amount of engagement, but those are what actually make you the money. And the posts that get me like the least amount of money are the ones with the highest engagement, because it's usually some sort of piece of content that is written in such an entertaining way that it captures the engagement, but it's not necessarily a sale thing. Now, there is value in people, seeing engagement so that they can have a little more confidence and safety to then take a risk on buying something. But that's only usually applicable if somebody is super unsure about you in your world, and haven't been able to make up their own decision yet, so they need to a little bit more rely on social proof. There's also types of people who need who almost exclusively rely on what other people do, and so there are some, you know, outlier type factors that engagement would be useful for. Also useful if people, I mean, you see this everywhere, people are teaching social media marketing or content marketing, and their fucking content or their profile has crickets. They got no followers, they got no engagement on their shit, but they're teaching engagement. Is, oh man, how to get more likes on your shit, and everything they've ever done has 3. It's like, well, then it really fucking matters, but you shouldn't be doing that. You're a fucking idiot. But that aside, all engagement tells you is how good you are at getting attention and eliciting an emotional response from your audience. That can help with bonding, and that can help, you know, create a tribe and stuff like that, but has nothing to do, not much to do with the actual sales itself, but it helps.
Yeah. I've put the link in, and it's a horrible link because it's come from an email that I wrote, so I can't find it there. Anyway, that link should get you where you need to go for the 24-hour offer.
Yeah, please, please get the Miller method, you guys. All the details are on the page there. Just do it. Now, there's 3 tiny little things I'd like to, if we have time, if you have time, that I
have time, babe. I'm just aware it's late for you.
Okay. So 3 like micro tips when it comes to actually writing or crafting this stuff. The 3 micro tips are: number 1, body parts; number 2, weather; and number 3, personifying objects and turning them into nouns, and then having them essentially do stuff or become verbs. So, and these things collide together. And so what this is super, it's creepy, it's almost weird when I figured this out, is that like all of the best content, and I'm talking about songwriting, movies, conversation that's interesting, creative conversation, content on the internet, has these 3 things here in spades. Body parts, for whatever reason, talking about body parts in your content as in the form of analogies or metaphors is huge. For example, the song "Walk on Water" by Eminem. Well, I mean, he's saying like, I walk on water, I ain't no Jesus. He says, why are the expectations so high? My arms I stretch, but I can't reach. It's an analogy, of course. If it's in my grasp, but as soon as I grab, squeeze, I lose my grip, like the flying trapeze. In the dark, I plummet. And then he says, you know, butterflies rip apart my stomach. And he says, you know, Vicodin to swallow. And he's talking about, he goes on, but essentially, even in many songs, like the sand between my toes, you know, there's something, take it on the chin. There's something about when you mention body parts, it really connects with people. And so I would really question and look at how much body part stuff you talk, like for, even just in your content, saying, today I'm going to hand you, you know, 3 important lessons that completely, you know, knocked me off my feet and had me flat on the back in astonishment. Talking about body and body parts matter. Something about connecting the words and emotions to our actual physicality. I don't know. I want to go deeper, but there's something there. Now, number 2 is weather. I think the weather, because the weather has such an effect on our moods as like an overcast and like something meta that, you know, and Joe Sugarman, one of the greatest copywriters of all time, talked about when you're creating copy, you want to create a vibe, you want to create a room, and you want to essentially set the setting for the piece of content, or when you're speaking. So you want to set a vibe, set a piece. And when it comes to almost like a soundtrack and a mood to feel. So this is even if you're talking about what you did yesterday, you know, on social media, you want to talk about the weather. You know, I was on my way to this place, you know, whatever you're going to talk about. I was on my way to this place. The sun was shining in my face. I could smell a hint of coconut as you know, as 3 birds chirped on the right, and that matters. Versus, you know, I was on my way there, and the skies were this sickening you know, depressing gray that matched how I felt, or whatever. Weather sets mood. These are like little tiny tricks that I'm talking about when it comes to injecting that emotion, which is what matters the most. So the last thing is personifying objects into nouns and having them do stuff. That's just a fancy way of saying you want to use metaphor and turn things that are not alive into things that are alive, and have them do things to you or do things to people. Let's go back to the Walk on Water lyrics, what I just said. It says, butterflies rip apart my stomach. Okay. Butterflies, can they actually rip apart your stomach? No, it's a metaphor. When you say, this idea cracked me in the face, the idea is not a thing. It's not a physical object. It's not a physical object even. It's an idea. It's a form, and it's not alive, right? But you made it alive. You said like it cracked you in the face. So you had it essentially come alive and do something to you. You know, like that idea just smashed me right, like hit me right between the eyes. Can the idea really do that? You know, or like, man, as soon as I saw that, is like, you know, the idea leapt up onto the table and kicked me square in the jaw. You know, that's what we're talking about when it's like when the writing or the stuff, you take something that doesn't exist or something that's not even a thing, it's an idea, and you personify, you make it come alive, and you have it actually do something to you, instead of saying, you know, when I saw the potato chips on the table, and that gave me a big idea. You know, that got me excited. Well, that's fucking terrible writing. That's terrible content. No, I saw the potato chips on the counter, and the flash of inspiration I had, you know, came at me with so much force, and that it blew me to the back of the wall and slapped me 6 times and it said, wake up, this is the greatest thing you've ever heard. So now you got, like, you know, the force of the idea rushing you, smashing against the wall and grabbing you by the lapels and telling you to pay attention to it. That is the art of drawing people in and creating emotion. Is you're not limited by the bounds of just like, oh, I did this. No, you can take everything and how you normally talk, and you're like, oh, like, wow, that idea is so cool. It's like, no, that idea is so cool that it literally froze my body. It froze my body stiff, flicked me into 1,000 pieces, and I had to pick all the pieces up. I was so floored at how cool that was. Right? Use language and bring it to life.
Amazing. So, I mean, it's like, it's so practical. When I said I'm going to use myself as a case study for this, so the Miller method is going to become recommended reading for everyone in my world, and it's going to become like a toolkit that we all talk about, we all reference, we all use, and I'm going to make sure that everybody who possibly can buys it, because in my programs and in my masterminds and in my client work, I want everybody to have access to this stuff, because instead of me trying to translate all of this stuff to my audience, I'd rather they got it from the source, right? Because when you go in the Miller method, you said, Mitch, not to watch it all at once because it's too much, right? But you can't help it. It's like, the more you tell me not to binge it, the more I'm binging it, because why would I spend my Christmas break watching crap on Netflix? Admittedly, I do like a murderous true crime drama, and I'll do that. I'll do that when I, when I want to relax in the evening. But I've got so much free time. I've got 4 kids, and it's Christmas, and I've still got loads of free time. Let's not kid ourselves. They'll be on their phones. They'll be out with their mates, doing their things. Babies go to sleep. Every minute, every spare minute you've got, you can go to the Miller method, press a button, and this stuff is incredible. And that you just said then, and I've known you for years. I've been masterminding with you all over the world. I've never heard you say that. And it's so tangible and practical to be able to apply to the next post that I write. And everybody watching this will see it, because that's not how I write, but it's going to be how I write from now on. And that's going to make a difference, right? And it's those tweaks. That's one thing. And there's about 48,000 things inside the program. That one thing about putting weather in, about using body parts and personifying something to make it come to life. Right? Yeah. I'll never forget that. And every post I write, not every single post, but when I'm like in the zone and I want to write something really good and I want to put something out, that's changed the game for my business already. And you guys get that for free today, which is amazing. So it's like, so Cheryl's bought. So Cheryl's a client of mine. She's in my program. She's an amazing entrepreneur. And she's going to excited to use me as my case study. And that's it. That's how I felt. I was like, shit, I can use me as a case study for this. If I apply all of this stuff for the next 12 months, how different is next Christmas going to be for me? Like, how is that going to move the needle if I consistently learn from Mitch? And I've got him now in my laptop. My laptop is just set up on its own in the kitchen, open on the Miller method. And every time I get a minute, instead of just dicking about on my phone and although I'm going to follow you on TikTok, Mitch, I don't know you're on there. Instead of thinking I'm going to, spend half an hour doing nothing, I'm going to spend half an hour learning something that's going to change the way that I show up on social media. I mean, it's just amazing. So I want all of my clients. So Joe bought it last week when she was on the first call. Another client of mine, we're working together closely this year. And again, I said to Joe, buy it, because it's all we're going to be talking about for the next 12 months. It's like
give yourself a Christmas gift, man, an early Christmas gift, because what could be better than getting this now and getting ahead of the New Year's thing? Because what's going to happen? Christmas is going to go by, the dust is going to settle, and then you'll be like, oh shit, the New Year is here, which is the one time that the 2 weeks from like January 1st to January 15th is everybody is going to buy everything. And that is the time in which you are going to make the most money that you'll make in the year, is probably in that 2 week period. But most people will get to like December 27 or 28 and be like, oh shit, what am I going to do now for Jan? You're not ready. You're going to panic do it. Give yourself an early present. It's this system and this method that I'm working on for fucking 14 years now. It just straight up works, and most of it's done for you because it's a toolkit too. So it's like, get ahead of the holiday stuff, because you're going to be ready itching to crush it in January. But don't do what everyone else does. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm itching to go right at January. And you're like, oh, what do I do now? And it's like, you miss. You're like, I'm going to do it. And then you spend all January trying to get prepared. And then you end up like launching and doing stuff in February, and you didn't capitalize on, one of the biggest, like the biggest buying season that we have, which is New Year's. It beats Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all that, because there's something about the new year turning over where you are ready to fucking become a new person, and so are all your clients. So it's not smart to just like let the 28th of December come and be like, oh shit, now what?
Yeah, because this is why we did. So I was supposed to finish on Friday, and that was it. It's gonna have 2 weeks off. Obviously, I'm not finished. I've been doing, and I said to my dad said to me yesterday, "Why are you not working?" I was like, "Dad, my not working day is most people's like full on day. Like I've still made offers, I've still sold stuff, I've still put content out. You know, I've still dealt with business stuff, but I'm like off." But when Mitch offered to do another 2 sessions, I was like, "Yeah, let's get it done over Christmas." Like, because
Yeah.
I said, "Should we leave it till January?" And I was like, "No, because people need to learn this stuff now. Like you've learned that
Yeah.
in today that you can apply tomorrow. Next week, I mean, it's between Christmas and New Year, so don't give me that. You've got no time. You've got all the time in the world. We're going to be talking about creating offers.
Yeah, 'cause
Oh,
people need this stuff. It's, the Miller method is positioning, content, offers, how they all mush together. Rich just said, I'm in, I'll buy when the call is done. Fucking awesome, man. It's smart. But like slightly scared by the breadth of content in the system. Excited for 2023. Yeah. Like I'm excited too for that. But the breadth of the content, the cool thing is I understand that. And also I'm not just bombarding with content. One of the sections I have in the Miller method is like the down and dirty. I have a down and dirty like roadmap and a cheat plan. Like with all that you can do here, what's the quickest like
yeah.
way, and the
That was
different pieces
funny,
you do.
yeah.
What are, and then all the different little templates and stuff. Like it's slightly a choose your own adventure. It's not necessarily like it's a step by step by step, because the truth is all of us, we're all in different businesses, different industries. We all have different biases. We all have different things that we're good at, things that we're doing. In fact, our situation, no matter who you are on this, your situation and your specific set of attributes between you, yourself, your customers, what you're selling, the industry you're in, where you're doing it, all of those attributes, it actually, that comes together in one, that's one specific set of attributes that's never existed in the history of the universe and will never again exist in the future of the universe. Exactly your situation and what you are is exactly something that is unique, like a fucking snowflake, and therefore no formula or pattern or framework will work specifically for everybody, because you kind of need to architect your own, which is the whole point of the fucking Miller method, which is why I even have like lots of ways to. It's all about how do we create something, how do you create something for yourself that is your own way? So it's not about just bombarding yourself with a shitload of content. It's not about just like taking my post template and using it, although you can. It's this, what this does is it teaches you how to and how to architect and craft and create a plan and a model and a way of doing business that fits you specifically. That's what it's all about. It's not jamming my shit down your throat. It's about what architecting something that's for you specifically. We're like, I want to do this, but I don't want to do phone calls. Don't do fucking phone calls. It's like, I want to do this, but I want to be able to do this, or I want to do this, but I only want to do it once a week. Well, fucking do it. And so it's the Miller method is it's like Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. It's formless but ready to use all forms. It's like water. It gives you everything that you need, and also the safety and confidence and handholding to show you how to craft and architect and create your own unique formula, which is what you need, because you are a unique snowflake regardless of what other people tell you. And so you can use other people's stuff, but you'll have to nuance it for yourself. So don't worry about the content in the system, because I show you how to pace it. And
Yeah.
and also I'm not big on theory. So like most of it's action oriented.
Yeah. It's like I started taking some notes yesterday, and then I just was like, I'm just writing everything down because everything's so good. I was like, oh. But just there's just so much like.
And dude, he said like slightly scared by it. You're slightly scared because of the overwhelm. Well, the overwhelm comes from, well, I mean, we get overwhelmed for many reasons, but for me specifically too, the overwhelm comes from, choosing your adventure, dude. That's how I actually want to describe it. That's funny you said that. I wrote that in my notes. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. The overwhelm comes from essentially getting too letting too many competing ideas in, letting too many things that you could do, and then not being able to choose them because you haven't taken the time. And we do this in the Miller method, taking the time to, on a meta level, on a kind of identity and strategy level, what do you want and what do you not want? and what are the boundaries for your business, and what are the boundaries for your life? How is the business going to tie into your life, and how is it going to fit not what other people are doing, what the competition is doing, so I got to do that too. It's like, if they're all on social media, I don't want to do TikTok, I don't do Instagram, I don't do that. Don't do any of those things. I want to just do this one. Do it. Right. So it's not like being reactive and then being like, oh, there's all these choices and ideas. No, it's about first setting the boundaries, setting the limits, and choosing and crafting your ideal life and your ideal business and what you want, as if there were no limits or anything that would constrictions that would hold you back. And then once you have that, and you know what you want and you know what you don't want, then you don't get overwhelmed anymore. Because when you go through any content, when you search on Google, when you do any of this stuff, looking for stuff, you can't get overwhelmed, because you already built your foundation, your house of boundaries and rules, so that everything checks against that. Now you can't get overwhelmed with this thing, because this thing, oh, well, I'm not going to get overwhelmed by that, because that's not something I give a fuck. I'm not going to give a fuck about, because I've already set up these boundaries and the rules of what I want. Or it's like, oh, well, that piece, I do want that, but I don't want that right now, so I'll put off the side. You only get overwhelmed when you're not exactly sure what you want and what you don't want, because you have nothing to filter all that information against. But if you do, you can't get overwhelmed.
House of boundaries. Oh, I love it. That's so good. All right, let's leave it there. I mean, you've given me so much of your time. Thanks for pranking me. That'll make great content of me going, oh, it's not coming.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being amazing as always. I can't wait to see you again on Wednesday. This is a lot of Mitch Miller time. I'm very lucky, and the replay is going to be sent out with the link, and we're going to be back again next Wednesday, same time.
Yeah, guys, pick up the Miller Method. I mean, I really don't care if you do, but you should care if you do.
I care if you do, because it's going to make my life so much easier. It's going to transform how you all market. So, right, thanks, guys. Thanks, Mitch, as ever. Have a great Christmas, and I'll see you in between. Bye, darling. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Take care.